बिलाल मुमताज़ हमारे साथ बैठे हुए हैं आज, और वो हेल्थ टेक के एक एंटरप्रेन्योर हैं और फुटबॉल के बहुत शौकीन हैं, और मैं भी उनको एलियस से जानता हूँ। वहाँ पे फुटबॉल का बहुत ज़्यादा चलता था, साइसा पे लोग जाना चाहते थे हर वक्त। तो ही इज़ ऑल्सो वेरी पैशनेट अबाउट फुटबॉल, इज़ प्रमोटिंग इट ऑल ओवर पाकिस्तान। कुछ मखसूस इलाकों के अंदर ज़्यादा प्रमोट कर रहे हैं, और बड़ी मज़ेदार हमारे पास आज फुटेज भी है, वो भी हम आपको दिखाएंगे। क्या हाल है?
बिल्कुल ठीक, आप सुनाएं।
क्या चल रहा है आजकल? आई एम गुड यार।
आजकल तो जिस तरह आपने कहा फुटबॉल चल रही है और साथ काम भी चल रहा है।
चलो फुटबॉल पे आने से पहले टेल अस अ लिटिल बिट अबाउट लाइक हेल्थ टेक पे क्या सीन है, बिकॉज आई हैव a first aid kit from sehat.pk, and it's still running. I don't know if the bandages expire and stuff, but I've been using it for the past कोई 7 साल हो गए हैं। एहसान, कितनी देर होगी है वो जो हमारे पास पड़ी हुई है? 7-8 साल, 3 साल तो कंफर्म। हाँ, so yeah, it's been very useful. Thank you for that.
You're very welcome, actually. The thing about Band-Aids is an interesting story about how the first Band-Aid came to be. J&J was the first manufacturer of it, and I believe the founder of the company had a cut. He contracted a cut at home, and his wife came up with a very makeshift solution where she took basically tape, cotton, and some iodine and wrapped it around him, and that's how you got the first modern Band-Aid.
वैसे ये खातून को ही क्रेडिट देते हैं उस बैंडेज के लिए, या उसके मियाँ को देते हैं?
कंपनी को देते हैं।
कंपनी मियाँ ओन करता था ना।
हाँ,
These are the unsung women who have created and innovated things that we give no credit to, but I'm glad you brought the story up.
No, it's worth mentioning. So obviously, I'd say कि इसका expiry तो होता है।
So this guy so bandage is a word that was invented after this?
Band-Aid, yeah.
Band-Aid.
Yeah.
We say bandage here. Or at least I say bandage.
Right.
But yeah, so interesting innovations in health tech happening here in Pakistan as well. So internet has a lot to do with it. So how is that sphere marketplace working?
So it's a very interesting space. When I first came back from university in 2014, तब मुल्क में 3G और 4G internet भी नहीं हुआ करता था, and I believe 6 months after I came back, we saw that boom happening. And what that boom entailed was you went from around just 30 million internet users who were primarily desktop users to around 110 mobile internet users overnight. And that was the impact that it had, that at least it gave accessibility of the internet to around half of your nation at the time, because we still are a mobile first market, and that's how we're essentially getting people onto e-commerce as well. Even through what we saw when Sehat was first formed, which was Pakistan's earliest e-pharmacy project, was around 70 to 80% of your users were using mobile devices to access the site, as opposed to the desktop or laptop or PCs.
Those are expensive as well, and like the penetration. Recently, like with the explosion of TikTok and the democratization of content creation as well, of using like devices that people can afford, as people have like 10 million followers within Pakistan, तो वो 10 million followers जो TikTok के होंगे, वो होंगे ऐसे लोग ना जो can access all of this stuff. Like, and so there's when you talk about like the health tech sphere, like of there's this e-pharmacy thing, but you have like a long background, historical background from your family's end as well, of being involved in pharmaceuticals. Can you give us like a breakdown of how, where the Fazal family, should I say, or how does it go?
You can say the Fazal family. That's an apt way of putting it. So in 1948, the family migrated from India to Pakistan, and they already had a background in not just pharmacy but groceries as well. And what they did was, when they came to Lahore, they took over a dispensary on the Mall Road, and that was essentially how Fazuddin and Sons Chemists and Druggists was formed. Is that they were basically it was a chemist shop, but they also sold pharmaceuticals as well, that later on became developed by factories. तो यहाँ पे basically compounding market से वो शुरू उन्होंने किया था, और इस तरह के basically इस तरह का ज़माना था कि पूरे मुल्क से लोग उसी शॉप तक पहुंचते थे फिनाइलेफ्रिन के आई ड्रॉप्स लेने के लिए, क्योंकि उस टाइम को सिर्फ वो कंपाउंडेड फॉर्म में आपको मिल सकती थी.
Oh wow.
So I've actually heard this story from a gentleman I met who runs a thriving ophthalmological or eye hospital in Karachi, whereas now it's being manufactured by different manufacturers in Pakistan. और उसके अलावा after starting the shop in 1948, 50s में एक हमने pharmaceutical manufacturing facility शुरू की थी, Howard's of Ilford के साथ, which was actually one of the first ever pharmaceutical manufacturers. They were England-based that made antibiotics.
Oh, and they have to be synthesized, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. So this whole manufacturing process of the antibiotics came to Pakistan, or was it like just an import thing?
It started off as a JV. Howard's is a brand that has origins in the UK. So the actual name of the factory is Lahore Chemical and Pharmaceutical Works, and the pretense on which it started was actually as a collaboration between the Fazal family and Howard's in the UK, and sort of that is how we set up a lot of our ventures to begin with. They were started off as collaborations with some of the key players in the world. So even if we talk about the transition now from, not even the transition, the expansion from just running a shop to investing in a factory, we also had a cosmetics factory that was producing for Helen Curtis and Elizabeth Arden back in the day. And apart from that, you know, when we started our radiology division, it was done more or less as a collaboration with Toshiba. And with orthopedics and, you know, cardiology and other verticals as well.
Did you hear about Toshiba dying recently?
Really?
Anyways, this uncle was complaining that Toshiba sell nahi ab aaya karenge, and I was like, Toshiba's dying? He's like, yeah. I was like, Energize is all right. I mean, but anyways, maybe it's not dying. But go on.
Yeah. And
so these are all vertical integrations within the
general family, right? So you know, in a nutshell, the family has been involved in pharmacy and pharmaceutical manufacturing and in medical equipment imports.
Okay.
So yeah.
And it all started as a chemistry, and so this retail is expanding at the same time as well as the manufacturing side at the back end.
We could say that, yes.
Give me. I'm very curious. Give me like a whole breakdown of the operations. Huh?
Definitely. So I mean, I'll tell you what stuff to add and what stuff to omit. So typically when one hears the word or the name Fazaldeen, they automatically think of Fazaldeen Pharma Plus, which actually was an offshoot brand from the main family, started by an uncle, which is doing quite well. You know, of the 100+ shops that are currently in operation all of Punjab, around 90% plus are franchised. They operate a few of their own branches, but it's doing quite well. One of those branches is actually attached to a hospital, so that's quite lucrative for them. And it still gives me immense pride to know that the name is still being kept alive, and people associate that the name, especially in the field of pharmacy, with trust and quality that they can, you know, they can rely on. Medicine में ये तो बहुत मैटर करती है कि आपने सही और शफाफ और ओरिजिनल मेडिसिन ली हुई है, ताकि अगर आपको बेसिकली अगर आप उस मेडिसिन को ले लेते हैं तो उस पर कोई साइड इफेक्ट ना हो.
Yeah. And apart from the ones that are mentioned on the back of the dabba anyways. So current import खसारा जो हमारा चल रहा है, I was reading on ChatGPT कि what happens especially when an economic downturn आता है, तो फिर उसके लिए क्या क्या असरात होंगे हमारे मुल्क में. And one of the things was कि there will be less drugs available, that medicine will be scarce. Why? That's because we don't manufacture any of it here. And how are these medicines, like which part of it is done abroad, which part of the packaging done here? How does that work? I've often wondered.
It varies quite a bit. So
Paracetamol
का अगर मैं आपको मिसाल देता हूँ तो बेसिकली पैरासीटामोल अगर आप उसका सबसे बेसिकली मशहूर ब्रांड नेम ले लेते हैं, इट्स पैनाडोल, मैन्युफैक्चर्ड बाय GlaxoSmithKline.
Okay.
The raw material in the case of GlaxoSmithKline is basically imported. तो ये जो इवन पैनाडोल शॉर्ट होने की जो पूरी स्टोरी है, ये LCs के ऊपर मतलब एक पाबंदी लगने से पहले की बात है. And that was because the government imposed a GST of 17% to be imposed on the import of raw materials, which had never been done in our history. उसके खाते में basically GSK ने कहा था कि नहीं, if you're imposing this, which is technically a withholding tax, but अभी तक बहुत सारे manufacturers को वो मतलब withholding वापस नहीं मिला. So they were like, why don't we're going to actually, you know, not really focus on importing paracetamol and then manufacturing Panadol or the finished product to be given to the market.
Interesting. The army has a, a market share in pharmaceuticals as well, you think?
The army.
The army. Don't they manufacture like paracetamol type drugs for their own, like the army has its own like Fazaldeen type thing. I don't know Fazaldeen अगर घुस सकती है barracks के अंदर या उधर क्योंकि I met this woman who is doing research for drug manufacturing for the army, and she says that a lot of the pills that are distributed within army sort of hospitals and stuff are manufactured within the army. So they have different brands that you might not see outside. Do you have any knowledge of this?
So the knowledge that I have is in some of the armed forces, yes, there are basically companies that are run by ex-armed forces personnel.
Okay.
But technically, army ka apna idara nahi ho sakta, that would be a huge conflict of interest. But then because, you know, they have that in within those organizations, they're the ones that normally get contracts to basically set up, you know, pharmacies or to provide local purchases of medicines that they need on the spot. So definitely मैं ये इस बात से मतलब मशहूर हूँ कि बहुत सारी ये कंपनीज एग्जिस्ट करती है जिसमें एक्स आर्मी पर्सनल है और उनकी अपनी वक्फियत की वजह से वो काफ़ी बिजनेस गार्नर करते हैं आर्म फोर्सेस से.
अच्छा तो वो डील स्ट्राइक करने में ज़्यादा आसान होता है. It's like lubricates the whole process.
Of course. I mean, not to say that those companies, like every company in pharmaceuticals, has to abide by a set of laws and codes, or their QA has to be very strict. Even if you create like a factory, ये law में लिखा है कि you know 2 कनाल की ज़मीन कम से कम आपको चाहिए होती है. You can't even like start manufacturing a room now, per se. And I know a lot of companies have suffered because of, you know, just not abiding by one line or one clause in what's written in, you know, these drug laws. And because it's a very, very, you know, regulated industry in Pakistan, especially. Even if you sell something above the MRP, because the MRP is set by the government, you get in hot water.
That's a strange thing that it's like set by the government. How do you feel about that? The pricing being set by the government, and that's not the FDA has a role to play. Is there a Food and Drug Administration that approves things, and if something can be like a medicine or not? Like my father used to have slimming tea, and it had to be approved by, because since it's slimming, it falls
we used to sell that item, so yeah, it was then classified as a food item. Generally speaking, अगर medicines की आप बात करते हैं तो उसके ऊपर GST नहीं है अगर आप end consumer को जाके बेचते हैं. With your dad's slimming tea, yes, he was trying to figure out, but essentially they ruled that it was going to be a food item and that the price would have tax on it. Because the thing is, yes, the regulatory authorities for food and drugs are different in Pakistan. So Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan, or DRAP, is the institution that basically gets drugs registered and then has the prices set for them.
And this is all under the government?
It is under the government. And what they've done recently actually is, because the FDA in America also regulates medical devices, the DRAP just started doing that around 6 or 7 years ago in Pakistan. So there was a legislation.
So ventilators and stuff.
Yeah. So the legislation passed around 2015, 2016 that whether you're developing something or whether you're importing it, that medical device also has to be registered.
Okay. And this is good or bad in your, like, are you free market guy or are you like a regulatory kind of guy? How do you?
So with medical devices, there isn't that stipulation of price control. But in all honesty, in essence, I'm for something like that. The way it's implemented is probably something I might think needs improvement on. There should definitely be, I wouldn't use the word scrutiny, but there definitely should be more eyes and ears open as to what exactly people are importing in the country and the quality of that device as well. तो मुझे लगता है जिस तरह आप पूछ रहे थे कि आप प्राइस कंट्रोल्स के बारे में क्या समझते हैं अगर ड्रग्स की बात करें या फार्मास्यूटिकल्स जो मेडिसिन जो भी आप लफ्ज़ इस्तेमाल करना चाह रहे हैं उसके लिए मेरी एक सोच है कि when it comes to basically drugs, I think that because there's more and more sort of price changes happening that are reflective of the economy, it's ultimately the duty of the government to make sure that the price that is sold at the market is reflective of, you know, consumer price index and inflation, so that the manufacturers at least aren't losing money. Yes, this is a country where 70% plus people live below the poverty line, so drugs should be kept at a very reasonable price ताकि अवाम उस मेडिसिन को मतलब खरीद सकें
हाँ.
मार्केट से.
There are some medicines like that people can't afford. Like I remember AIDS की कोई एक medicine थी. There's this really cool show with it's called Angels in America with Al Pacino, and उसके अंदर basically there's this homosexual couple और they're poor. They can't afford these drugs that can kind of keep that HIV or AIDS at bay. But there's this really rich lawyer character Al Pacino play कर रहा है. And वो बार बार वो क्योंकि lawyer character तो he says this unequal distribution of resources is primary. होती है, हर जगह होती है. Like I mean, like if I don't eat here doesn't mean that if I eat too much over here doesn't mean that I can actually send that food to Africa and feed the hungry, you know. It's unequal distribution of resources. It's fundamental to existence of human beings. So he keeps saying this thing, and there's some people who can't actually afford the drugs for keeping the AIDS locked. So are there drugs, a lot of drugs like that, or just most of it is like cheap now? No? The polio drops are like cheap as hell.
There's different categories of drugs as well, and what people or what manufacturers over here do, realizing that yes, it's a country where essentially, like for you give the example for HIV, health insurance does not cover treatment for HIV in Pakistan.
Oh.
And I mean, you should always ask someone, whether it's your bank, whether it's the insurance company themselves, or another third-party provider providing the insurance. You know, if I'm paying so much for health insurance every month or every year, what am I entitled to be covered for? But having said that, for, you know, a lot of other sort of conditions as well, especially neurological conditions, what manufacturers do is they have patient care programs where if a patient or a deserving patient is given a 6 months prescription of a particular drug that is for not exactly a rare condition, but perhaps a condition that affects less than 100,000 people globally, and he or she can't afford it, so what they do is they say, Acha, you pay for just 1 month, and for the other 5 months, it's on the manufacturer. And then that is essentially how Sehat worked very closely with manufacturers to, you know, provide those medicines to set patients on behalf of the manufacturer through these programs.
So there was also another like tech health initiative that you were taking about, like connecting doctors to patients. How's that going, and what's that business like?
Yeah, so that business, or the core competency of the business that Sehat eventually merged with to create the new brand Kalaash, was doctor teleconsultation. So what they did was that they employed a model where they had their own doctors. उनके अपने doctors थे. और एक ऐप के ज़रिए patient क्या करता था, patient एक consumer इस केस में, वो एक बटन क्लिक करता था और वो कोई 5-7 मिनट के अंदर डॉक्टर से कनेक्ट होता था. और डॉक्टर्स बेसिकली उस टाइम को कंपनी का नाम था ऑगमेंट केयर के अपने पेरोल डॉक्टर्स थे.
ओके.
पहले तो वो बेसिकली ऑफिस में आके बैठते थे अपने टाइम स्लॉट्स के हिसाब से. फिर कोविड के बाद जैसी बात अभी भी वो सिलसिला चल रहा है कि वो वर्क फ्रॉम होम कर रही हैं. बट the essential thing that separates us from the other people in the market were the QA involved, because क्योंकि डॉक्टर्स अपने पेरोल के थे, वो कमीशन ही कमा रहे थे, then they could be monitored and tracked, and then obviously they had a commitment that within a certain time slot, whoever calls in, I will take the call and I will consult the patient. अब उस सिनर्जीज को रियलाइज करके उस ऐप के थ्रू अब ई-फार्मेसी डिलीवरी का भी ऑप्शन आ गया. थर्ड पार्टीज़ के थ्रू हम डायग्नोस्टिक्स और ई डायग्नोस्टिक्स में हम काम कर रहे हैं, एंड दैट सीम्स टू बी डूइंग वेल. तो द थिंग इज़ दैट व्हेन द मर्जर हैपेंड, इतनी सारे क्लियर सिनर्जीज थे शुरू से कि अब हम इस स्टेज तक पहुँचे हैं जिसमें बहुत सारे पेशेंट्स को जो ऑलरेडी टेलीकंसल्टेंट यूज़ करते हैं, अब उनको बेसिकली मेडिसिन डिलीवरी की सहूलत मिल गई है लाहौर में. एंड नाउ व्हाट वी डूइंग इज़ वी प्लानिंग एन इमिनेंट एक्सपेंशन इनटू इस्लामाबाद. इस्लामाबाद में ऑलरेडी हमने एक इंस्टीट्यूशन की फ़िज़िकल फार्मेसी का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मिला है, जिसमें उनकी इंटरनल पेशेंट डिपार्टमेंट और आउट पेशेंट डिपार्टमेंट की मेडिसिन हैंडल कर. आउट पेशेंट डिपार्टमेंट इज़ लाइक द रेगुलर फार्मेसी where people who get prescribed medicines from consultants go and get their medicines, and the internal patient department is the medicine section where you're dealing with patients who are in emergency rooms or getting surgeries and need basically inpatient treatment.
सही हो गया.
तो वहाँ पे हमें ये नज़र आ रहा है क्योंकि उधर एक प्रॉपर बेस बन गया है, वो मर्ज कंपनी की डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन भी अच्छी खासी जा रही है. दैट इज़ यू नो व्हेन वी इट्स सॉर्ट लाइक रिवर्स इंटीग्रेशन कि हम अब ब्रिक एंड मोर्टर से ऑनलाइन जाना चाह रहे हैं.
हाँ.
बट दैट्स आई थिंक व्हाट सेट्स अस अप इन दैट गुड वे, क्योंकि ऑलरेडी लाहौर में जिस तरह सेहत और ऑगमेंट के शुरू थे वो तो ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म्स के ज़रिए शुरू हुए थे.
हाँ.
अब तो इस्लामाबाद में बेसिकली ऑलरेडी प्रॉपर फिजिकल बेस बना है और वहीं से हम ऑनलाइन मीन्स के थ्रू पूरा मार्केट को कैपना चाह रहे हैं.
Zabardast. And what are the challenges that you're facing with these ventures?
So, I mean, it rightly put, अब merge entity में तो टेक्निकली बहुत सारे बिजनेस लाइंस तो आ गए. एक तो बेसिक टेलीकंसल्टेशंस भी है, ई फार्मेसी भी है, फिर बेसिकली ब्रिक एंड मोटर फार्मेसी मैनेजमेंट भी है और डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन है. हर बिज़नेस में चैलेंजेस तो होते हैं. आई थिंक पाकिस्तान में मैं खुद ही समझता हूँ कि फार्मेसी ऐसी फील्ड है, स्पेशली लाहौर जैसी शहर में, जिसमें हर जगह आपको फार्मेसी मिल जाती है. एंड इवन इन द केस, इवन इफ़ यू आर नॉट एन एक्यूट पेशेंट, इवन इफ़ यू आर नॉट ऑन रिकवरिंग मेडिकेशन, इफ़ यू हैव अ हेडेक, तो आपकी माइंड में ये चल रही है कि मुझे दस्ती मेडिसिन चाहिए. आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू वेट after making a phone call for 15 or 20 minutes. I'm not going to take the time out to say go to a website and order Panadol, even if it comes in 30 minutes, because you might think if I could get it in 5 or 10, why don't I use that method? So the important thing in that sense is कि customer को सही तरह से आपने define करना है और उनको convince भी करना है कि why should one use an online system to do it. Yes, जो already medical professionals बैठे हैं, doctors हो या pharmacists हो या किसी और भी medical field से कोई licensed professional हो, they appreciate these online systems because वो even अगर वो आपका end consumer शायद ना भी हो purchasing के हिसाब से, they are going to basically look at that website and then they're going to see कि अच्छा, if I'm a pharmacist, I want to know information about this drug. I want to know कि manufacturer कौन है. Even in our case, लोगों को पता चलता था क्या ये medicine available है market में या नहीं. एंड अभी भी एक बेसिक गैप एग्जिस्ट करती है मार्केट में कि अक्सर डॉक्टर्स को पता नहीं है कि जो वो मेडिसिन लिख रहे पेशेंट्स के लिए क्या वो अभी अवेलेबल है या नहीं.
हाँ.
So bridging gaps is one part of the whole game.
Real time inventory kind of a app, I guess, suppose. I mean, one of the things that I remember with I was talking to Rabil Vadaich and पता नहीं मैं बात सही तरह समझा कि नहीं समझा क्योंकि वो बड़े स्मार्ट आदमी है, लेकिन मुझे जो समझ आई थी कि करीम के बारे में वो कह रहे थे कि व्हेन करीम लॉन्च्ड दे हैड लाइक दिस फंड्स राइट टू, सो दे मेड द राइड्स चीपर कि बंदा करे तो सही ना, कम से कम यूज़ करना शुरू तो करे पहली दफ़ा. तो दे वर पेइंग द ड्राइवर separate money, subsidizing it so that it would make it worth his time and they would be gravitating towards becoming a Careem driver. So, but from what I'm paying as a consumer, मैंने आपको दिए 500 रुपये, लेकिन उधर से आपको 160 रुपये या कुछ एक्स्ट्रा भी मिले करीम से क्योंकि आपने उनकी ऐप इस्तेमाल करना शुरू की. तो शुरू में they're kind of pushing it that way. Like in a similar way, a drug dealer would give extra drugs for the first time so that you get hooked on the heroin, and then you bring the price, the actual price of the product after you're hooked onto it in front of you. So when they stopped doing that, Careem, they had supposedly 1 million rides. There was a point where in a day they had 1 million rides. But then they slowly, when they stopped subsidizing it, it came to the actual market value of the ride itself. The people started dropping off.
I get that.
And it fell to the the class, economic class that could afford it.
Right.
So with these things, does that how does that work with e-commerce and delivery of pharmaceuticals? Like, do you have to make it cheaper earlier so that people actually start using this way of getting their drugs? So that drugs sounds pharmaceuticals कहते हैं.
Pharmaceuticals.
Narcotics के साथ ना mix हो जाए. Medicine
के साथ भी कह सकते हैं. अच्छा, it's interesting that you mentioned Careem, or if everyone basically obviously has greater business goals in mind when they come to very penetrative practicing strategies. क्योंकि I think जब Careem launch भी था पाकिस्तान में तो वो शायद रिक्शे से भी मतलब सस्ता सवारी होता था, जहाँ तक मुझे याद है. And the two key takeaways of what Careem has achieved, and this is from around 2 to 3 years ago, is that primarily through this pricing strategy, और भी उनकी अपनी strategies थी. They had achieved employing 1 million captains and tracking 40,000 kilometers worth of routes in the MENAP region.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
क्या
So
बात?
with that, in a nutshell, layman के लिए अगर मैं समझाऊँ तो that means they gave 1 million people jobs.
हाँ.
And 40,000 basically kilometers was traveled on just one singular app.
Is that data worth something?
I think it is.
Maybe they sell it separately as a different thing for map navigational
Of course,
purposes,
because
right?
like every single platform, whether it's Google Maps or there's Waze, has its own unique way about it. Do you know why Waze stood out from Google Maps?
You could tell कि आगे पुलिस वाला जो है ना वो खड़ा हुआ
Closures की
है,
आपको पता चलता था blockages
पुलिस
के लिए.
वाला आपकी स्पीड चेक कर रहा है, तो आप जरा थोड़ा स्लो हो जाएं, आपको चलान ना हो.
बिल्कुल.
I remember that was a big thing. For me at least.
Yeah.
I used to overspeed. Should never overspeed.
So, in that sense, if we talk about, what I think your question was, what is basically the
Market को shift करना.
Market को shift करना कैसे होगा? I think that if you're talking about, getting people hooked onto the e-pharmacy model, it's not so much going to be a play on really lowering the price, because like I said, it's a price controlled industry. What a lot of e-commerce sites do is they inflate the price and then add shipping on top of it, and then that's how they're making good margins. But in medicines, unfortunately, अगर एक set MRP है उसके ऊपर आप उसको बेच नहीं सकते. But what does get appreciated by the end consumer, and what we found was the whole concept of rescheduling your order automatically in one go, like ordering 6 times in advance from one click. ताकि, for example, you need medicines for the next 6 months. एक दफ़ा आप website पे जाके order कर लेते हैं, और फिर, for example, first of the month, अगले 6 महीनों के लिए आपके doorstep पे rider होगा.
Kamal. That's sort of subscription type of a model, है ना?
बिल्कुल, exactly.
Athletic Greens, I don't know if you've heard of this supplement company in America. They do this thing with their product AG1, which I've been trying to get. It's got, I think, most whole food extract supplements inside it without the vitamin D aspect of it. So I was like, yaar, ye subah subah ek peena chahiye. But that thing expires. So you get once a month subscription and they deliver to your home. They have this beard trimming things as well. Okay, there's a beard club, I think. वो भी आप महीना subscribe करते हो and you get the blades and you get the foam and everything for your beard trimming.
इधर पाकिस्तान में, अमेरिका में?
अमेरिका में.
Dollar Shave Club.
Dollar Shave Club, that's the one. Yeah.
बिल्कुल, exactly.
I was forgetting the name. तो इस तरह की there's subscription models happening. But Pakistan में is anybody been able to execute it properly yet?
I don't think Dari Mooch works on a subscription model, but I did hear about a company that tried to do that with blades specifically.
हाँ. दाढ़ी मूछ का इंटरेस्टिंग ब्रांडिंग है मुझे.
हाँ, but वो दाढ़ी मूछ नहीं है जो ये ब्लेड्स वाला काम शुरू करना चाह रहे थे. And we could also be sort of poised to do something similar to that. मुझे याद है कि Treat Corporation की कुछ हम अभी भी salon razors बेचते हैं और safety blades भी हैं. And actually I shave the salon razor now. I learned how to do it because you're stocking the items. तो ये भी basically e-commerce site चलाने का एक फ़ायदा है कि आपको automatically market वाले पता चलता है. And then you know people who want to stock on your website, and then you get a feel of what's in the market and what can be branded for the customer's delight and what really adds value to them.
Yeah, Spotify was struggling with trying to get the people to pay in Pakistan for music. तो उनका ये एक official statement भी आई थी कि people don't want to pay for music in Pakistan. I get the Spotify premium वाला version because I don't want बीच में ads आ रहे हैं कि मैं गाना सुन रहा हूँ, अच्छी भली ambient vibe चल रही थी और बीच में एकदम से अस्सलाम वालेकुम, आपको ये really ruins the vibe. So I pay for that. But getting people to pay for that subscription model, whether it's for music or other things, is there a company that's been successful at it? I mean, Netflix, I suppose we pay, but we only the upper tier, and Netflix भी यही कहता है ना कि आपके यहाँ पे इतने subscribers हैं नहीं कि हम यहाँ के लिए specially content बनाना भी शुरू करें. So hence there's a big Indian lobby, and Pakistani people can't really access Netflix funds.
You must have heard of this company called Patari back in the day.
Oh yeah.
use किया. But मुझे नहीं पता आजकल इसके कैसे हालात चल रहे हैं, लेकिन वो भी
Still alive.
Still alive.
Still alive, still kicking. Rabil Warach's company, Sarmaya Car, has invested in it.
जी
एंड दे यूज्ड टू एज अ म्यूजिशियन मैं बता सकता हूँ कि शुरू में उसका पे आउट फीचर जो था ना, वाज द फर्स्ट वेबसाइट टू काइंड ऑफ गिव दैट टू अस, एंड दे पेड अ फ्यू टाइम्स एंड देन there's something Pakistani people don't want to pay for music wala angle that kind of started playing, at least the way as a musician I would get this feedback कि यार नहीं वो नहीं देना चाहते पैसे मौसीकी के लिए. But Spotify seems to have taken over that space. Global level से आए हैं और they seem to be paying as well. The payout is good as well. So I don't know if Patari is a successful example. There is none. I can't seem to think of any. Or how is this economic depression affecting business currently for you guys?
well it's entailed that you can't really open LCs. तो जो हमारी जैसी बात है वो वाली वर्टिकल्स है जिसमें इंपोर्ट हम ज़्यादा करते हैं वो काफ़ी मुतासर हुए हैं. और इवन जो ई फार्मेसी स्पेस में स्पेशली टेक्ली और मेडिसिन मैन्युफैक्चर नहीं करते हैं उसके लिए, मगर ये भी मसला है कि आधे से ज़्यादा ड्रग्स अब अवेलेबल नहीं है मार्केट में. इफ़ नॉट बिकॉज ऑफ द ओरिजिनल GST इशू, अब तो बेसिकली LCs बंद होने की वजह से वो कुछ रॉ मटेरियल्स इंपोर्ट नहीं हो रहे हैं उन कंपनीज़ के लिए जो इंपोर्ट करते हैं. There are raw material manufacturers here that make paracetamol alongside other things, but some people obviously prefer to import them. जो ज़्यादा MNCs हैं आपके वो तो imported raw material से या finished product बनाते हैं और पैकेज करके बेचते हैं लोकल मार्केट में.
Okay.
तो ये भी मसला है कि
run out?
पाकिस्तान में इवन अगर किसी ने $3,000 या $4,000 की बिजनेस करनी है वो प्रिंसिपल कहते हैं नहीं LC के थ्रू हम करेंगे बस.
Oh wow. और अब तो I mean, there's so much bad news कि मैं focus भी नहीं करना चाहता उस चीज़ पे. I open dawn.com every morning. I'm like, okay, it's getting worse. We're getting close to it. But hopefully things get better. I mean, what's the worst case scenario though? Like, अगर medicine ना available होगी. Did this happen in Sri Lanka, na? Medicine wasn't available.
It wasn't
for a few
available.
months.
For a few months, yes.
और फिर क्या होता है फिर उससे? How does that affect people's health overall?
Well, it depends on how the medicine industry of that country is structured. श्रीलंका का कुछ भी नहीं कह सकता, लेकिन अफगानिस्तान में ये कि local manufacturers in Afghanistan only represent 7% of the industry. But obviously, if they're in a position जिसमें वो medicine import नहीं कर सकते हैं, so that obviously affects them in a much bigger way than it would, say, in a place like Pakistan. पाकिस्तान में अब इस तरह हो रहा है कि बहुत सारी आपको फॉर एग्ज़ाम्पल जो डायबिटिक्स के लिए जो भी आपकी रॉ मटेरियल्स हैं या सब्सटेंसेस हैं वो अभी भी इंपोर्ट हो रही है. सेम थिंग विद अ लॉट ऑफ हार्ट मेडिकेशन. लाइक एक दफ़ा वैलसार्टन हाइड्रोक्लोराइड which is for a heart patient, we were importing a huge batch from China, we as in Pakistan, और एक सर्कुलर आया था कि इस बैच में कंटेमिनेशन आई, सो दैट हैड टू बी कॉल्ड बैक. उसी वजह से बेसिकली जो उसका बैच था दैट हैड टू बी सफर्ड. एंड बैचेस भी तकरीबन बैचेस के हिसाब से मेडिसिन प्रोड्यूस होती है पाकिस्तान में, सो इट कैन बी
Track back
upwards,
to...
हाँ, upwards of maybe even 5 or 6 batches a year.
Oh wow.
इसलिए कुछ जिस तरह medicines जो है, some of them, especially if they're being imported and just packaged and sent over here, well, I think maybe 2 or 3 months out there you can be able to buy them. And that applies actually to a lot of, you could say, sensitive neurological medicines or even benzodiazepines. Like there's Xanaxes or Ritalins, for example. वो even इन मसले से पहले भी अक्सर ही शॉर्ट ही रहती थी मार्केट में.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
तो खैर है, फिर तो होता रहा है, हमें कुछ खास फर्क नहीं पड़ना चाहिए. I mean, so tell us about this काविश आपकी जो फुटबॉल और सॉकर के हवाले से है. हमारे पास यहाँ पे कुछ फुटेज भी पड़ी भी है. कौन सी वाली लगाएं पहले? फाइनल लगाएं?
हाँ, पहले फाइनल लगा लो. So basically this was footage taken from the final match of what I'd like to term as Chitral's most premier elite club competition, जिसका नाम मैंने फिटिंगली रखवाया था the DFA Chitral Cup.
I didn't even see it coming.
और ये इसका बेसिकली वो असल गोलकीपर नहीं है, स्टैंड इन गोलकीपर है पेनल्टी शूट आउट के लिए.
ओह ओके, बड़ी काफ़ी आवाम आई हुई है.
हाँ, ये तो बेसिकली इस फाइनल के लिए तो अब सबने पूरी दुनिया पहुंची हुई थी. एंड दिस आई इंटेंशनली बिकॉज आई एम एफिलिएटेड विद दैट फुटबॉल एसोसिएशन एज वेल, तो जानबूझ के मैंने इस टूर्नामेंट को विंटर टाइम में रखा है. बिकॉज ये होता है कि डिस्ट्रिक्ट फुटबॉल एसोसिएशंस कि टीमों की बेसिकली एक टूर्नामेंट होता है पेशावर में जनवरी के टाइम में. So having a tournament like this in the winter time actually prepares them for that tournament, which is
It's harder in winter?
It's harder in winter. So obviously they get acclimatized much better to those conditions. इस टाइप का टूर्नामेंट मैंने बेसिकली 6 टीमों का रखवाया था 2021 में. And then 3 weeks later they had to go to Peshawar, and that whole Chitral combined DFA team won the whole tournament.
Oh wow.
Out of 71 teams. हाँ.
और ये कहाँ से आपको एकदम से हुआ कि I mean I know you're from LAS and LAS में football's the thing.
It is. Yeah.
But how's the taking it outside of our little burger circle to the people? How does that come about?
ये तो सारा कुछ basically 2011 में शुरू हुआ था. I went there. A former teacher of my father's from HSN was principal of a school in Chitral at the time. बल्कि वो उनके नाम पर फिर स्कूल बना because it was basically he had done so much over there. तो मैंने उनके बच्चों के लिए कैंप करवाया था. Then after a very long break, after 6 years, I decided to go again because I was like, I love football and I want to basically develop talent. मुझे उस टाइम को भी याद था कि जब मैं गया था 2011 में तो मुझे बहुत सारा टैलेंट नज़र आया. And then I used to do a small one-off match / tournament every 1 or 2 years, but a small scale पे कि मैंने वहाँ जाके एक मैच करवाया था बच्चों के लिए. उनको फिर कुछ कैश प्राइजेस दिया, कुछ मेडिकल सप्लाईज भी दिया. And then in 2021 I did a large scale youth tournament and a senior tournament. फिर 2022 में ये किया था कि कोऑपरेशंस के सपोर्ट से मैंने 4 बड़े टूर्नामेंट्स ऑर्गेनाइज करवाए थे.
वाह.
And even this year alone, अभी 2000
कौन सी कोऑपरेशंस थी जिनने हाथ दिया साथ?
एक बेसिकली एक हेल्थ टेक कंपनी थी अमेरिका में. So they have already done a lot of CSR in Pakistan, जिसमें उन्होंने सोलर वाटर पंप्स इंस्टॉल किए कुछ इलाकों में. ऑर्फनेजेस भी बिल्ड किए. और फिर यहाँ के कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर के मतलब 2 बड़ी कंपनीज है. One manufactures tractors. They're the ones in cement.
मिल्लत?
Yes.
और कौन हो सकता है?
Exactly.
तो अच्छा ज़बरदस्त. And you're saying कि ये winter में भी है तो let's put on some winter stuff.
हाँ.
This was the final. This was like a penalty. तो draw हो गया था क्या?
हाँ, draw हो गया था 1-1 after full time. हाँ, इस साल बेसिकली एक तो ये मैंने स्नो फुटबॉल का मैच कराया था आइस एंड स्नो फेस्टिवल में. So this was totally organized by the District Football Association Chitral. और इसमें अगर आपको जिस तरह नजर आ रहा है तो
It's almost like it's a different sport. Because the ball doesn't roll much.
हाँ, और इस खास तौर स्नो फुटबॉल के लिए आपको एक ऑरेंज कलर्ड बॉल यूज करने की जरूरत होती है because you can't see it otherwise.
वरना वो चैलेंज होगा कि आप बॉल ढूंढ लें.
Exactly.
Heavy. Oh man, what? That's a different challenge altogether. Where's the goal?
They had to make makeshift goals with sort of like the
वो तो डंडियां लगी हुई हैं तो crazy.
क्योंकि ये तो एक्चुअली कलाश वैली में हुआ था. तो कलाश में इस तरह की प्रॉपर फील्ड नहीं है.
बम्बू रहत या which
बम्बूरेट में. हाँ.
Oh, I love
So there was a nice and snow festival और उसके लिए मैंने एक स्नो फुटबॉल का मैच करवाया था. And so this happened in 2023 in early Feb. Right now there's a KPK Veterans Tournament happening in Peshawar that's going to start tomorrow. तो अभी तो things are moving at a very quick pace.
Very cool. These guys must have amazing cardiovascular health because the oxygen's low.
Yeah,
and
high altitude and
and with the high heart rate is up. You got to breathe fast. You got to get the oxygenation happening. Wow. और खूबसूरत इलाके में.
बिल्कुल.
We don't see a lot of women supporting the teams, yaar. What are the women coming out?
Well, you do see a lot of female tourists coming for these events.
Acha, and what about like
you see girls over there, right?
Oh, you do, yeah. I take my words right back.
And in the Kalaash Valley, it's a little different, right? So you do see people there are generally more liberal and progressive and are free roaming in that sense.
There was an interesting when I visited Kalaash last time. I saw their graveyard and their different culture and how like Hindu Kush ke andar se this pagan tribe and their religion is completely different. But there was this encroachment thing. There was these forced conversions that जिसके बारे में मैंने थोड़ा बहुत सुना के, and then it became a UNESCO protected heritage site. So I often wondered like, how do people like, because the driver that I was with ना, वो बड़ा सख्त इस्लामी ड्राइवर था, और वो ड्राइवर साहब की गुफ्तगू मुझे बड़ी है कि मैं लिव एंड लेट लिव टाइप बंदा हूँ, तो मैं लाइक ओ अच्छा दे बिलीव इन दिस, ओ दे डोंट bury their dead, कैन आई गो टू द ग्रेवयार्ड एंड लुक एट द हड्डीज. एहसान की फट गई वहाँ पे, एहसान की डर लगने लग गया. उसने कहा मैं नहीं देख सका. हाँ, एहसान साथ गया था और हम गए उधर. मैंने कहा यार मैं तो ग्रेवयार्ड देखना चाहता हूँ. एहसान कहता है यहाँ पे रूहें हैं, बदरूहें फिर रही हैं. मैंने कहा यार कुछ नहीं है, देखो नोट करो. बट द गाय हु वाज विद अस वाज द स्ट्रेंजेस्ट गाय. लाइक तैमूर भाई काफिर है लेकिन खूबसूरत बड़ी है, तैमूर भाई देख ले काफिर. And he would just go like खूबसूरत काफिर, खूबसूरत काफिर. I was like, there's some sort of a conflict within acceptance of other people's religion and beliefs, but you find it attractive at the same time, and ये एक अजीब सी एक कैफियत आपके अंदर एग्जिस्ट करती है.
हाँ, उसके अगर आप बेसिकली थोड़ी बहुत चित्राली हिस्ट्री पढ़ भी लेते हैं तो एक टाइम पे ये पूरा निज़ाम कलाशों का था. मैं कोई मतलब
This must really old.
This was really old actually. हाँ, मैं तो कोई 300-400 साल पहले की बात कर रहा हूँ. इनफैक्ट मेन टाउन में जो चुई ब्रिज है,
हाँ, yes.
द वर्ड चुई refers to the कलाश people. ये अपनी ज़ुबान में उनका एक लफ्ज़ है. और आप सब उस टाइम को तो लोग मतलब घोड़े में आया करते थे इतने दूर से. And just for your knowledge, the most of the road infrastructure you see in Chitral actually was constructed by the British.
Oh, was it? अच्छा.
प्रॉपर एक सीज हुआ था 1857 में. तो उसके लिए उन्होंने ऑन द गो एक कैरावैन के थ्रू उनको डायनामाइट लगवाने पड़ते थे और सड़कें भी बनाने पड़ते थे आने जाने के लिए. And right now what you're seeing is, yes, the Kalaash Valley was always a little very open towards tourists. अब वो basically ज़्यादा कंट्रोल में उनको रख रहे हैं. So it's part of like the Union Council of Ayoon. You've probably seen videos of Villa Ayoon over there, which is a nice sort of like resort hotel.
There's a really cool PTDC as well.
Acha, I don't know if that's still around actually.
Oh, really?
Bumburet you're talking.
Bumburet, yeah. No longer. I just stayed there. Really thought
there's also a nice army mess there as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wish I had access to that.
3 army messes in Chitral. One's in the main town, one's in Kanam Chashma, and the third one's in Bumburet. तो उसमें ये now
border की वजह से ना, because it's very bordering type. Okay, हाँ, go on.
So yeah, I mean now it's sort of like you kind of have to get permission to visit sort of the Kalaash Valley now, and वो ज़्यादा basically non-Chitwalis को तंग करते हैं. Chitwalis को इतना मना नहीं करते. And then obviously when you go there, now the Kalaashi people are not as open to getting photographs of themselves taken as the case was from before.
Yeah, they were really open when I went. And there were a few people who were like, hey, why are you filming? Because they were like, एक छत पे एक बंदा था जो dry fruit dry कर रहा था, and I was just like, oh, the fruit looks amazing. But he's like, why are you filming? And then it occurred to me that people come and film all the time. They must be sick of it.
Yeah.
It'd be like, there's also that.
And if you ever thought that the main Chitral was underdeveloped, then it's even more so in Kalaash because it's very remote. बहुत पसंद इलाका. That's why it was very hard for us to find a field there with existing goalposts. And because the road going there is a single road and it's not even developed, तो कोई ऐसी गाड़ी भी नहीं वहाँ जा सकती जिसमें.
तो ये सारे चित्राली है, वहाँ के locals हैं, और ये 2 teams हैं.
हाँ, 2 teams हैं. These basically 2 teams. सारे basically इस footage में आपको Kalaashi players नजर आते हैं. And by Kalaashi I mean belonging to that region, जिसमें majority actually मुसलमान है. और कुछ आपको उस faith के लोग, आपको उस मज़हब के लोग आपको मिल जाएंगे, Kalaashi मज़हब के लोग. Because as you know now, obviously most people in all 3 Kalaash valleys are Muslim.
Oh, really?
बहुत कम Kalaash लोग आपको मिल जाते हैं. And when you go to the main,
decided to integrate, huh?
When you go to the main,
but they were nomadic people from earlier, right?
Yeah, I mean they sort of have a belief system very similar to that of Alexander the Great and his army.
Oh, okay.
और actually कोई 4 festivals होते हैं साल में. So basically there's Chilam Joshi, which happens in the spring. That's around May.
Yeah.
And then there's the festival of Uchal that happens in late August.
Okay.
There's a festival of Pul that happens in October. And then there's the Choimes festival that happens in December. That's their winter festival. And that's why essentially a lot of people say, even people living in Chitral, that Chitral has a higher tourism potential than Skardu and Gilgit and Hunza. क्योंकि इन चारों फेस्टिवल्स के लिए एक्चुअली बाहर से भी बहुत लोग आते हैं, टूरिस्ट भी आते हैं उसको
यहाँ पे वो
Proper
घोड़े
देखने के लिए।
पोलो की है यहाँ पे ज़्यादा
Polo,
Because Shandur, I think, isn't too far off, is it?
it's 6 hours away.
6
Not
hours,
far
that's a
off
lot. That's
at all.
not too far off at all, huh? The Kalaashi people are Indo-Aryan indigenous people residing in Chitral district of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province of Pakistan. Kalaash population in Pakistan numbers only a few thousands, making them one of the smallest ethnic minorities. So ethnically they are minorities, but now they seem to be mostly Muslims. So religiously they're not a minority anymore. Like from what I'm gathering.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah. I mean,
indigenous people culture. No, where's the religion part of it? So there's the festivals. The Kalaash people are primarily practitioners of a traditional Kalasa religion, which is a form of animism. Is they worship like animals or something?
No. Animism just means spirit worship. So
Spirit.
even if someone
Interesting.
examines like the religion of certain African countries, वहाँ पे भी अभी भी animism चलती है.
Creatures, objects, places, all possess a distinct spiritual essence. Animism perceives all things, animals, plants, rocks, rivers, weather systems, human handiwork, and in some cases words, as animated and alive. Ooh. It's almost like spiritually they understood these systems as an operation of
Yeah,
cycle,
actually,
right?
and some of these things you can only understand once you go there to visit. I didn't go to Choimes myself, but I sent a photographer over there. और वो भी मुझे कह रहे थे कि actually Choimes का यही basically story है that they examine a wolf. एक लंगूर को वो देखते हैं.
हाँ.
और अगर वो basically एक अपनी जहाँ उनकी regular resting place है वहाँ से वो अगर वो migrate करते हैं एक और गर्म जगह में, so that means according to them, according to the animistic beliefs, that winter is come.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's not monism though, it's not monotheism, but it's like polytheism. Because there are many things that have a spiritual thing. But I wonder if they have like a hierarchy of power or that leads up to omnipotence of one.
Animism का एक तो root word तो anima है ना, so that in Latin means life. So they look at nature, they look at different things. There's a spiritual element with that as well, and then they develop a religious system.
And it's got like some Hindu Rig Vedic religion as well. So it's like echoes of many aspects of Hindu stuff. So and Hindu Kush is right next door. So I'm assuming that there's like an exchange of ideas of religion.
I'm sure, yes, because they say that Lower Chitral used to be Hindu before it became Muslim, and then Upper Chitral was Buddhist. So there's also a huge Buddhist influence
Buddhist
in there.
influence.
Yeah.
That guy, man, Buddha, went up 20 years disconnected. Aajkal ke social media ke like the way we're connected, I often wonder like, because there's a point like I'd meditate these days कि मैं जाता हूँ, I sit in a sauna, a dry sauna, and then I try to empty my mind. कोई भी ख्याल अगर दिमाग में आ रहा है तो वो मेरा ख्याल नहीं है, वो किसी और का ख्याल है, उससे दूर होता हूँ, अपने आप को एक थर्ड पर्सन से ऑब्जर्व कर रहा होता हूँ कि ये कोई और है, मैं नहीं हूँ. And then I kind of empty my thoughts, right? Barely ever do I get there. I try with breathing and all of that stuff. This is something that's like occurred as I've read about it. Sam Harris वगैरह और इस तरह के लोग हैं जो meditation, there's apps and stuff for it as well. Matthew McConaughey has a really good meditation mindful key talk that I kind of listen to. It's very soothing. So I get there, but like Buddha figured that out without any of this information. Or like Wim Hof. Have you heard of Wim Hof?
No, I haven't.
So this guy like does these breathing exercises और फिर exercise breathing के आपको in, out, and ही एक पूरे 2 मिनट की उसकी साइकिल होती है. उसके बाद आप 1 मिनट 30 सेकंड अपनी breath hold कर सकते हैं. You get there. Everybody gets there. But he's figured it out. And they didn't know this. Like now the Harvard scientists have put like, you know, ECGs on him and figured out what is actually scientifically happening to the body as he's doing these things. But after he does these, he's climbed like Mount Everest चड्डों में. उसको सर्दी नहीं लगती. वो ठंडे कोल्ड प्लंज करता है, ठंडे पानी के अंदर छलांग मार देता है और 2-2 मिनट वहाँ पे बैठा रहता है with बर्फ़ें लगी हुई होती हैं. And he's able to consciously control अपने जिस्म की vitals using breath and mind. You know, stuff that you would do using artificial substances. It's fascinating how much you can learn just by like practices of old Buddhist things. And supposedly he also got some of them from Buddha
You
deities.
can learn a lot from, I think, anyone that you come across, especially in Pakistan. Pakistan तो एक kaleidoscope है, फर्क मतलब cultures के और वो फर्क लोगों की भी.
So you chose Chitral for what reason exactly? Just the teacher who was from there?
I mean, that was a catalyst. That was the initial reason. उसके बाद मैंने ये सोचा कि right, if I want to do something for football, one thing that would really entice me to actually take action is to be in a place where football is appreciated more than any other place in the country. क्योंकि ये तो cricketing nation है. अगर लाहौर even आप एक main जगह में Mall Town Academy में tournament कराते हैं, you won't likely see a packed house. Yes, I would say that talent gets nurtured more over here because you have the facilities. But I wanted to basically go to a place where I knew that there wouldn't be that extra sort of issue of trying to get those people to become fit and then become good footballers. वो already fit है. वहाँ पे already एक proper माहौल है football देखने के लिए और मतलब वहाँ के लोग वैसे भी football TV पे देखते हैं और उनका शौक है खेलने का बचपन से.
कराची में भी काफ़ी सीन है वैसे बात.
हाँ, लियारी में भी सीन है.
लियारी में हाँ.
Yeah. But this was also an excuse to be in a place where I could enjoy the climate and the geography, to learn more about a different culture, to actually make an impact in a place where, you know, Liari phir bhi ek urbanized jagah, ye kafi remote hai, and to
more impact.
Be in a position where I can change the life of even a small kid just by giving a platform to play football.
They're passionate and just winning something would encourage, right?
Of course, yeah.
Well, what's the biggest goal? What would be the dream for this?
The dream?
For this kavish of yours?
The dream would be essentially to have a proper third generation football pitch in Chitral, where kids can go and play and nurture their talent. वहाँ पे tournaments भी अक्सर लोग करवा सकते हैं. And then even the Pakistan Football Federation, अगर उनके साथ कोई इस तरह का partnership हो जिसमें वो regularly उस area में भी और northern areas में बल्कि scouts भेजना शुरू करें. So that means that we have a huge talent pool that, you know, can be recognized on even greater level, and then we'll have a proper mix of different players from different backgrounds in a national squad, जो फिर ज़्यादा amplify हो सकते हैं बेहतर coaches के साथ और बेहतर facilities के साथ पाकिस्तान में.
That's interesting. I mean, उस इलाके में काफ़ी ज़्यादा लोग वैसे भी fit हैं. There was this एक अजीब सा फिनोमिना कर किया था ये ओलंपिक्स के अंदर कि दे लॉन्ग रनिंग एक पर्टिकुलर डिस्टेंस की रनिंग थी जिसके अंदर एक ही अफ्रीकन ट्राइब के लोग बार बार जीतते थे हर साल.
इथियोपियन ट्राइब थी? इथियोपियन
नहीं ट्राइब थी मेरे ख्याल से. अब मैं लिखूंगा तो चैट जीपीटी बताएगा.
Please, I'd like to see that. I might be wrong.
Tribe
that it would either be Kenyan or Ethiopian because I think they're the ones who will always win the long distance competitions at the Olympics historically, right?
Running long distance?
Long distance. Long distance तो क्या 800 और 1600 के होते हैं ना?
One Kenyan village fuels the world's fastest runners.
Exactly. It was either Kenya or Ethiopia.
Has dominated Olympic like no one else. Discover the secret ingredients to their success. And जो breakdown है इसमें यही था कि वो जिन हालात में वो पैदा होते हैं कि उनको रोज़ पानी उठाने के लिए एक पहाड़ चढ़ना पड़ता है.
Even चित्राल में भी है कि अक्सर सर्दियों में छोटे बच्चों को भी वो बेचते हैं लकड़ी लाने के लिए. हाँ. So it's very similar in those sorts of areas as well.
तो इसीलिए आई फाइंड लाइक आई मीन माई ट्रेनर सुखचैन के अंदर शहजाद भाई शाउट आउट किंग शहजाद भाई जो हैं वो बहुत फिट हैं.
वो चित्राली है किसी और?
चित्राली.
अच्छा.
और वो चित्राली और मैं काफ़ी चित्राली माउंटेन क्लाइंबर से भी मिला हूँ और एक फ़िटनेस लेवल वहाँ पे मेंटेन्ड है. आपको मोटा बंदा नज़र ही नहीं आता सड़क पे. यू नो वो कहाँ जिस तरह के इलाके में वो रह रहे हैं जितनी मुशक्क़त उनके जिस्म को वैसे ही काटनी पड़ती है तो वो वैसे ही तंदुरुस्त रहते हैं और चुस्त रहते हैं. तो इस तरह की जगह से सोर्स करना लगा. पहला रनर जो इन्हें पहुँचाया होगा कैनियन ओलंपिक्स में तो उनको वो जीता है तो उसके बाद से उन्होंने कहा होगा यार इस इलाके में तो बहुत ज़्यादा पोटेंशियल है. एंड प्लस द फंड्स कम इन नाउ दैट यू वॉन द ओलंपिक्स. सो गेटिंग दैट वन लाइक दैट javelin thrower of ours, getting that one guy, that athlete, all the way up to the top. I guess you can't do that with soccer because it's a team sport. You need many people. But those guys are fit, man. Chitrali people, काफ़ी cardiovascular health तो मैंने देखा है generally fit है.
So there was actually a Spanish coach that works for an academy in Islamabad. He conducted a camp in Chitral around a few months ago. वो भी ये कह रहे थे कि he's held camps in different areas of the world from South America to Europe to different parts of Asia, and he's yet to come across a group as physically fit as the Chitralis, in the sense that he even quoted saying that if he ran training sessions for 45 minutes or an hour, but with the Chitralis, he made them work for like around an hour and 30 minutes straight, and they weren't tired.
In those conditions as well,
Yeah.
जहाँ पे ऑक्सीजन भी कम होती है,
Exactly.
तो ये तो बहुत पोटेंशियल है और टैलेंट हमारा मतलब कि पहुंचाने वाली बात है.
Bilkul.
And that's what you're doing. At least with soccer,
We're
we're
also
trying.
helping doing that right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's a worthy cause, man. My hats off to you for doing
Thank
it.
you. Thank you.
Let's try to find out what ChatGPT thinks about why this Kenyan. Because I've presented my opinion. I feel like my opinions.
Try to copy paste like the name of the village. So, do you think that would help?
Okay, so the Kenyan village you were saying.
It's right in this page, isn't it?
It's called Collegian tribe. Why does the Collegian tribe?
Mhm.
That's what I'll say. Let's see. Is known for producing I's best long runner, including numerous Olympic gold medalists and world record holders. There are several reasons why the Kalenjin have been so successful in long distance running. Genetic factors. Some scientists have suggested that the Kalenjin may have a genetic advantage when it comes to running long distances. Number 2, environmental factors. And that's the one that I was pointing to. It's high altitude region है और चित्राल का भी यही है, Rift Valley है where I don't know if it's a Rift Valley. Okay, so the Kalenjin has been shown to conducive to development of high levels of aerobic fitness. Then the cultural factors. Running is deeply embedded in the Kalenjin. So climbing is deeply embedded in Chitrali people.
It is. I mean, it's actually quite funny. That to them is like, oh, जब ईद का दिन आते तो हम ये करते पहाड़ के ऊपर बस walk करके रात ठहरते. You know, it's like not a big deal for them.
चोटी से होके आते हैं. So we've got the genetic factors running for us. We've got the environmental factors running for us. We've got the cultural factors. ये हमने ऐड करने हैं बस.
Training factors.
ये game है सारी. चलो, I mean, this is it's been quite edifying. बताएं कुछ अगर आप message छोड़ना चाह रहे हैं, if you want to say anything that we might have skipped over.
I think I mean I personally had a good experience with this podcast. आपने सबसे पहले मेरा background बताया लोगों को कि I'm a health tech entrepreneur. But apart from, you know, I guess what people do as a 9 to 5 or what people do as part of their career, they I mean, it's not part of me to give advice to someone outright, but I think that it's probably the best feeling one can have when you know that you're in a position to give back to someone or to change someone's life, let alone a community's life. So मैं ये suggest करता लोगों को that we have a country that needs our support, and I think we have to be the change that we want to see in the world, especially for Pakistanis in a wide variety of fields, from education to sports to arts and culture. तो मैं ये message देना चाह रहा हूँ कि आप बस अपने country support करें और let, you know, people have their talent harnessed.
कमाल. I hope they apply your advice.
Thank
और
you.
उम्मीद है पाकिस्तान इसी तरह बेहतर होता रहेगा.